I want to take the opportunity, because we're going to have a course today, and you've already probably seen this set up in a previous video, to talk a little bit about some books. This is just a tenth of the books that we could be talking about and I could have brought here, but obviously there's only a limit, and this is focused on amendments, composting, and soil health. And a question that I get very often is, where did you learn all this stuff that you know? It's definitely not from books. I mean, most of it is learned through practice and seeing other people doing stuff and trying things out. But books can be useful, especially if you want to go a bit deeper into why things are the way they are. So I'm going to quickly show you a few books that can be useful. This is a course that talks about amendments and making your own fertilizers and stuff like that. It talks a little bit about health of plants. So I'd put out some books that have to do with disease and pest control, even though we, barely even open these, just sometimes to check what that specific insect or animal or disease is. There are better books on diseases and also on pests, but they're not printed. They are ADHP, I think they're called, guides or walkers guides to individual crops, so for carrots, for cabbages and things like that. And you can, like 80 pages on one single crop, and it shows you all the possible pests and diseases with photos. But it doesn't talk about how to treat them, whereas this one is focused on treating them. This one is an amazing equivalent, but with homemade things. So you can use what's called jadam, which is a technique to do everything with stuff you have around the farm to fight pests. This is a classic from the RHS and DK, full of photos, quite friendly. To be honest, I don't think we've ever used it. It's quite a nice one to have, but not the best. And it's more for a beginner, I would say. Now, this is a very serious book, very expensive as well, so I'm not recommending you buy it. But it talks about, it's very academic as well. It talks about the link between mineral nutrition and plant disease. So specific nutrients, if in excess or in deficiency, they can cause vulnerability to certain diseases. And here, all the research, this is like, cutting edge research has been summarized. And this is a fantastic book, very practical, for the beginner and the advanced gardener alike. It's a regenerative guide to garden amendments, and it goes into the nitty-gritty of how to make the amendments, of how we make them. So I would say it's a great companion book to this course, even though I go into a little bit more detail on some things and I don't treat much others. And obviously in the course we make things in real life, but a lot of the recipes can be found in there. And then we got Jadam, so this is the same thing as that one, but it's a more general book. It explains the philosophy, and it talks about fertilizers and not so much about pests. Now we're going to the Bible section. These two actually should be next to each other. These are two of my favorite books. This is the best book on soils you could possibly find. It explains everything. It's meant to be a university textbook. So it's quite introductory in a way, because it assumes that students don't know, they know a bit of chemistry and physics and biology, but they don't know tons about soil. In fact, they don't know almost anything about soil. And you can see plenty of notes in here. I use this very often, or at least in the past I've used extensively. I don't know how this still holds together, to be honest. But then we got this one. Not a big fan of this approach, but some of you might be. The idea of balancing mineral fertility in the ground. So if you balance different nutrients in the ground, then you get vegetables which are exceptionally nutritious. And so the idea is to get all sorts of solid amendments to get your soil at that balanced, ideal level and balance. I'm not a big fan of this, because I think with biology you can achieve more than with chemistry, and so no-dig kind of bypasses all of that stuff. This is the Bible. So I was talking about the two Bibles, for me at least. There's definitely a third one that I didn't bring, which is heavier and also more specific for more academic. But this one is also quite friendly. Soil microbiology talks about all the microbes and the life in the soil, very relevant. And this is, if you want a friendlier version, this is for any reader. It doesn't require any previous knowledge of science or stuff like that. It's very, very friendly as a book about life in the soil. K&F, this is an amazing book. Unfortunately, it's not in print anymore, by a guy in Totnes called David O'Carroll. That's it, David O'Carroll. So thanks to David if you're listening to this. He's written a book with all the recipes, a lot of which we use today. for Korean natural farming, and which is again a system which involves buying nothing from outside apart from sugar, I guess, and using things in-house, things that are in situ. For the love of soil, this is a great introduction to managing your soils. Very friendly, very well written. And there's another one that I forgot actually to bring, which is a soil owner's manual. Very good book by John Sticker, a little bit more technical than that. And finally, a biodynamic manual. Some of you will think biodynamics is just hodgepodge. There's a lot of good stuff in biodynamics though, even though the mystical aspects of it put off a lot of people. And a lot of the recipes in here are very, very relevant to this course. So, here you go. This is just, not a comprehensive list by any means, but a few books that are relevant to making your own fertilizers and biostimulants and stuff like that.